Alright, moving along with the hand loads for my Tikka T3x stainless light. This one's chambered in 243. I am reloading 95 grain Sierra tipped Match Kings. These things have a great BC for the weight of the bullet. Some of the reloads I used IMR 7828 SSC. So let's take a look at some of the results I got here. Previously I had loaded up quite a few rounds of Varget and was playing around with the powder charges there. It's just not the ideal powder for this gun, so I did load up just a slightly hotter round than I had tried before to see if I could get my velocities where I wanted. It's not looking like I'm going to get it there. These things grouped about 4 inches across, just not looking real good. And I'm not real impressed with it. This is from a previous video, Tikka 243 hand load beginnings. These are 3-shot groups. I was bumping up 1 grain in powder between each 3-shot group. This is the Hodgdon H4350 powder that I was using. Right here, I ended up deciding that I wanted to try more 42 grain because I was convinced that I had pulled that shot, so I wanted to see if I loaded up more, if I could get some to group real tight like they are touching right there. Here's the first 3-shot group. I was shot with the H4350, grouping right at 1.15 inches. That's fairly good. That's better than most of the hand loads I've shot out of this so far. Pretty much I've started out low and these bullets aren't stabilizing at the lower velocities. The faster I get going, the tighter they start to close in. Jumping over to the next group, this is a kick-ass group. If I could get them to shoot like this all the time, I'd be real happy. 0.58 inches here, and these are all loaded up at the same weight. This is Hodgdon H4350, and I've loaded them with 42 grains of powder, which is their max charge. But like I said, those other two from the first target I shot grouped really well, so I wanted to see if I could replicate those results. I see no pressure signs with them on all the brass that I've shot. Here's another look at the H4350, another 3-shot group, 1.1 inches. So these actually averaged out to be 0.945 between these 3 groups. I think this one saved right here. This one might have been lucky. I think this is pretty representative of what that 4350 will do at the 42 grain mark. Here's a look at the velocities with that H4350 loaded to the 42 grains of powder. The average was 3,068 feet a second and the standard deviation was 16. That's pretty good. I took all 3 of those 3-shot groups and ran them in a string of 9 and just averaged all of those together to get my data for that. So same process as the H4350. I chose, I started out at 42, went 43, 44, and 45, which had opened up a bit. So I decided that 44 was the best group that I shot here, and it has higher velocities than 43 would, or even 42. These shot pretty well, all 3 of these did, but shooting long range, I prefer to have a slightly more velocity to try and beat the wind if I can. So I loaded up some with 44 grains of this IMR 7828 super shortcut. Here is the first group with that IMR 7828. Again, this is 44 grains of that, shooting a 95 grain Sierra tipped Match King bullet. This one grouped at 1.75 inches, as you can see there. Moving on to the next group. That shot pretty well. I was hoping that more of them would shoot like this. 0.8 inches is pretty good. That's totally acceptable for me. As a shooter, I don't know if I'd ever be able to get down below a 1/2 inch. If I do, it would be extremely lucky and a very good day for me. Just holding my rifle on these crosshairs, I can see my crosshairs in the scope moving just slightly. I don't have a perfect rest, and as I squeeze the trigger, I might rotate the rifle a little bit. I'm not there as a perfect representative of a shooter. So the first two groups shot well. On my third group, I only shot two. One of them failed to fire. In fact, it is this bullet right here. The primer strike looks just off center and for some reason didn't ignite. I've looked at all my other brass, and even with the off center punch from the firing pin, they all seem to ignite. So I'm actually going to take this out again and I'll chamber it up and see if I can get it to fire. Maybe if it's rotated in a slightly different position, it will ignite this time. If it doesn't work on the second try, then I'm just going to go ahead and throw this away. I'm not going to try and blow anything up here. It's possible I contaminated the primer with the oils from my hands or something like that. So with the IMR powders, I was only able to get two groups and may have skewed my data just a little bit. But I think I might try more of the 44 grains. So shoot this same stuff again. That looks good. And it looks like these two could have been awesome. On these groups, it looks like two always group together and then one flies off. My AR-15 does the same thing. So I would have anticipated this flying off somewhere close by, but not quite staying with these three. I think I'm going to load more 44 and then maybe bump up a half grain to see if I can get the velocity up a little bit. As I'm going to show in a second, it's not quite where I want. Here's a look at the IMR velocities. This was shot in cold temperatures. It was about 32 degrees while we were out. The H4350 is pushing this bullet at 3,060 feet a second. This is only pushing it 2880. The factory Federal Fusion rounds come out at about 2,900 feet a second, so right in between these two. And I think I want to try and push these bullets right around 2,900 feet a second. The Federal Fusions are also a 95 grain bullet, and they shoot extremely well. So I think that that's kind of the area I need to be in for them to shoot good. Standard deviation of 26 with the 7828 SSC, which isn't too bad. That's acceptable. Shouldn't mess with me too much on my long range shots. All of my rounds that I had loaded were using the CCI large rifle primers in the BR2, which is a bench rest primer, supposed to get a more consistent ignition. Sierra tipped Match Kings. I know the Match Kings are supposed to be really consistent bullets. I bought this because it was available. I would have preferred to get H4350, but at the moment where I'm at, it's hard to locate. The stuff sells out quick, so I picked some of this up to try, and I am getting good enough results that I'm happy with it that I don't regret buying a pound of it. But if I do find some 4350, I will definitely be buying a pound of it. That takes care of the summary for this shooting trip with this rifle. As of now, I haven't got much video of me actually shooting this rifle for a video, so I think in the near future I'm going to take it out and shoot some bolt action for a video. See if I can improve myself from watching myself shoot, and hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing me shoot this gun. So for my next trip out, I'm planning on loading up a few more of the 44 grains, probably another 9 rounds, and then I'll probably load up 3 rounds of 44.5, and maybe go a touch more than that as well. And I'll take whatever H4350 I have left and load up more of these 42 grains, shoot a couple groups with them, and see what that does for me.